All right, hello everybody. My name is Jim Pingle. Welcome to our April 2016 Hangout on pfBlockerNG. I'll be hosting this month, and the actual meat and potatoes of the presentation will be given by BBCan177 on the forum. His first name's Anthony. This month, we'll be talking about project news as always up first. Then he'll give an intro to pfBlocker, how you install it, go over some of its settings, working with country or ASN lists, the DNSBL, how to update the list and look at alerts and log browser tab, and how to operate the widget. And we're hoping to have some Q&A time at the end, but we'll see how the schedule goes. So there we go. All right, first up, project news since last month. 2.3 went to release, and there's the link to the blog post there. If you haven't updated yet, be sure to read the blog post, the release notes, and the upgrade guide very thoroughly before you update. Some people have hit some issues. We've tried to document everything we can. There's still a couple things we're tracking down yet that weren't uncovered during our own testing or during the RC phase or the beta phase. We're also working to bring some of the packages back that didn't make the cut yet. So I will be posting about those on the forum. There's like NUT that is one of the UPS monitoring package is one that people are really eager for, and there's a couple others we've been poking at and trying to get back up before too long. We are working on a 2.3.1 release to address some of the issues. So if you haven't upgraded yet, you might want to hold off. We're hoping to maybe get that out next week if we can. It's just a pretty minor update. If you're already on 2.3, it'll be very easy to update from one to the other. We do have snapshots for that if you want to give it a shot. It's snapshots.pfSense.org, like always. We have announced pfSense training. There's still a little bit of time left before the one we have actual in-person training in Frankfurt in Germany for our Voltec partner. That one is happening May 17th to 18th, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. local time. You can sign up for that at netgate.com/training if you're going to be in the area. If you prefer online, we have announced the training dates throughout the rest of the year at the same URL, so load that up, and you'll find training dates from now through December, I think. Several different training spots open, hopefully to accommodate everyone's schedules. All right, that's the end of the news. Anthony, you can go ahead and take over, and let's get learning about pfBlocker.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. That's okay?
Yep, it's coming through just fine.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thanks for the introduction, Jim. pfSense really is an awesome firewall to work with. I appreciate pfSense allowing me this opportunity to showcase pfBlockerNG and its functionality, and hope that this hangout provides some clarity on how to use the package effectively. So to start off with the boring stuff, pfBlockerNG is based on the older pfBlocker package that has been mostly rewritten and redesigned by myself. The first version of pfBlockerNG was released in January 2015 and is now in its second release. At the time of this hangout, it's at version 2.0.12. So what does pfBlockerNG do? Basically, pfBlockerNG allows for the collection of IP addresses and domain names, otherwise known as DNSBL, from a multitude of sources in varying formats, and normalizes the collected data. This data is then used to either control or monitor activity passing through the firewall. pfBlockerNG leverages existing pfSense firewall infrastructure to make this happen. Things like aliases, firewall rules, NAT, and DNS, to name a few. There are also other tools that are incorporated into the package. The MaxMind GeoIP database, grepcIDR by Jim Berkey's, which is used to deduplicate IP addresses. Aggregate, which is used to optimize network prefixes. LightTPD, which is used by DNSBL as an internal web server. Whois, which is used to convert ASNs into their corresponding IP addresses. So the package provides a souped-up interface to be able to manage IP lists and domain lists to make life of the administrator a little bit easier. Okay, so we're going to demystify the beast here. So I want to start with package installation. And with package installation, it's broken down into three parts. package installation, package upgrade, and package deinstall. So the first thing I recommend, if you already have pfBlocker installed, is that you go to the package tab, you go to update, and you check the time remaining till the next cron task. What you don't want to do is update the package if cron is going to run or if cron will be running shortly. I'm going to flip to what a typical log looks like. So new package installation, you will see an installation log similar to this. The package is downloaded from the pfSense repo. The components are extracted and installed. And also the MaxMind database is downloaded and converted for pfBlockerNG. So there's two scenarios, scenario A and B. Scenario A shows a successful download from MaxMind. And this is what you want to see. If you don't see this, you will get scenario B. Scenario B shows a failed download from MaxMind. If this occurs, the MaxMind database is downloaded from the pfSense repo to avoid package issues. Should you see scenario B, you need to figure out why you have connectivity issues to the MaxMind servers. You can still use the package with scenario B, but the GeoIP data may be slightly out of date. Here's just showing you the balance of the installation. So now we're going to go to package upgrade. So the first step in a package upgrade is to actually deinstall the existing package and then install the new package. So when you do this, you need to ensure that keep settings is enabled in the general tab, or your existing settings will be wiped out on an upgrade. So I'll flip here to the general tab, and here's keep settings. And you want to make sure that that's clicked. So scenario A shows keep settings enabled and all settings are retained. And scenario B shows keep settings disabled and all settings removed on upgrade. Okay, so now we'll go to a package deinstall, which hopefully nobody wants to use, but I'll show it anyway. So here's a typical deinstall log. You can see scenario A and B again in regards to keep settings. If you're doing a full deinstall, the first thing you should do is you should go into the package, you should disable the package, uncheck keep settings, follow that by a force update before attempting to remove the package, or you may be left with remnants of the package after deinstall. Okay, so we're gonna look at how to set up the package. As stated earlier, pfBlockerNG has two main components, IP addresses and domain names, otherwise known as DNSBL. I will now show some typical use examples on how to set up the IP component. These examples are not a complete solution and are only for demonstration purposes only. To configure the IP components, you can use three tabs, IPv4, IPv6, and the country tab. We will now navigate to the country tab, which initially opens up to the top 20 tab. The top 20 tab is a collection of the top 20 spammer countries as referenced by Spamhaus and Project Honeypot. It is important to read the note at the top of the page. I know a lot of people don't like to read, but we're going to do it. pfSense by default implicitly blocks all unsolicited inbound traffic to the WAN interface. Therefore, adding GeoIP-based firewall rules to the WAN will not provide any benefit unless there are open WAN ports. Also consider protecting just the specific open WAN ports. It's also not recommended to block the world. Instead, consider rules to permit traffic from selected countries only. Finally, it's just as important to protect the outbound LAN traffic. So for this Hangout, I've only configured the top 20 tab, and we will be selecting two countries, China and Russia. Sorry for singling out these two countries, but they're just used as an example. Use the Control plus click to select or unselect the countries. Select the list action as deny outbound. Enable logging. And then make sure that you save your settings. So now that we have finished setting up the country tab, we will navigate to the IPv4 tab. Here we will configure aliases. Each alias is a group of IP lists that will be combined together to create a single alias. Once an alias has been defined, it can be referenced in a firewall rule. This is useful so that you can combine similar lists into a single alias, or by a common update frequency, example, once per hour or every 4 hours. And maybe some people don't know, but you can actually drag aliases around, and you can, depending on how you want to order them. So we're going to start by creating a new alias so we can see the settings. First thing is you enter the alias name. Do not use international, special, or space characters. Enter the description. For each list, you need to define the format, the state, the source, and the header label. That's done right here. You can click the Add button to add additional lists. You can click on the blue exclamation mark, and it'll open up extra information on how to configure each list. The list action setting will determine what to do with the alias. Selecting deny, permit, or match type actions will create the alias and also create firewall rules that reference this alias. Selecting alias deny, alias permit, alias match, or alias native type actions will only create the alias. Firewall rules will need to be manually added. You can also click the blue exclamation mark, and for list action, there's quite a few details here on how to configure that. Update frequency. Select when the alias should be updated. Enable logging. You can enable logging so that all alerts are logged to the firewall log and the alerts tab. This can also be globally enabled in the general tab. And then you would just click save to make sure that you save those settings. Oh, forgot one part here. There's also states removal. So for deny type aliases only, you can enable or disable states removal feature. The purpose of the state removal is to remove any existing firewall states for IPs that have been recently added to any block list. You can disable this on a per alias as required here. You can also configure advanced inbound and advanced outbound firewall rule settings, which will allow for more customization of the firewall rules. These settings are optional. The options include invert the source or destination alias, define a destination port by referencing a pfSense alias, defining a source or destination address, also by referencing a pfSense alias, defining a protocol setting, and defining a gateway setting. Again, you can mix and match to configure the rules how you want them, or leave them out. The IPv4 custom list is where a user can manually define IPs to add to this alias. After a custom list has been created, any changes to this custom list will only be updated at the next cron task or by selecting the drop-down menu at the bottom, Update Custom Lists, and then running a force update in the Update tab. And again, always make sure that you're clicking Save to save the alias. So I've pre-configured several different aliases as shown here. Pry1 alias is a collection of IP lists of known malicious IPs. These lists are from reputable sources and is updated every hour. An auto firewall rule will be created to block outbound traffic to these IPs. The Pry2 alias contains a single list of known malicious IPs. This list is also from a reputable source and is updated every 4 hours. An auto firewall rule will be created to block outbound traffic to these IPs. The Tor alias is a collection of Tor exit node lists. Tor can be a distribution method for lots of dodgy stuff like CNCs and bots. These lists are from reputable sources and is updated every 4 hours. An auto firewall rule will be created to block outbound traffic to these IPs. The mail alias is a collection of mail-specific IP lists of known email spammers. There are no mail servers in this network, so it's currently disabled. It's only shown here as an example. The whitelist alias is a collection of user-defined whitelisted IPs. These IPs are manually added to the custom list. So you can see here there's no source, so it's just going to use a custom list. An auto firewall rule will be created to permit outbound traffic to these IPs. This rule will be placed above the block reject rules and will allow the LAN devices to access these whitelisted IPs, even though they are listed in a block list, like an IPv4 alias or in a country list. The web server alias is a collection of Canadian IPv4 addresses only. An auto firewall rule will be created to allow only these IPs to access the local web server on its specific listening ports. The source field contains the path to the MaxMind GeoIP country code list. In the advanced inbound firewall rule settings, you can see the custom destination port setting references a pfSense alias web server ports. And the custom destination setting references a pfSense alias web server. Also, the custom protocol is set for TCP UDP. The Facebook alias is a collection of Facebook IP addresses. These IPs are collected via Facebook AS numbers listed in the source field. The purpose of this alias is to match outbound traffic to Facebook. Match will not block traffic, but only log the traffic activity to the firewall and the alerts logs. This alias can be used for other purposes like blocking access or for use in a limiter to control bandwidth. So the IPv6 tab, there are not many lists that contain IPv6 block lists at this time. The tab is here for future use. The only list that I've found so far that contains IPv6 IP addresses is block list DE, block list DE. Okay, so now that I've explained about the IP components, we will review the general tab settings to show how it all ties together. So the first thing is to ensure that pfBlockerNG is enabled. Keep settings was described earlier and should also be enabled. In the cron settings, you define the hour, the minute, and the start hour. The daily, weekly start hour is only used for aliases defined as once a day or weekly. So you should ensure that the IPv4, IPv6, and country tab, any of the alias frequency settings there, you have to make sure that they correspond with the cron settings here, or they will not run. You can enable deduplication, and you can enable CIDR aggregation. Those are optional. So we'll move to suppression. Suppression is similar to whitelisting. However, suppression will remove an IP from a block list when it is downloaded. Whitelisting, however, is a process to permit access to or from a whitelisted IP before it's blocked by a deny or reject firewall rule. So it's recommended to enable suppression, as it will also remove any local type addresses, RFC 1918 and loopback, that a list maintainer might accidentally add to a block list. So I always recommend to enable suppression for that purpose. When suppression is enabled, a plus icon will also appear in the alerts tab, which you can use to suppress an IP. Global logging. When global logging is enabled, it will override any logging settings that are defined in the IPv4, IPv6, or country tabs. So I usually recommend to leave this off, and I usually want to fine-grain control which aliases I want to log. So again, this is optional. Disable maximize updates. If you decide not to use any of the GeoIP country lists, you can select the option Disable Maximize Updates, which will remove the monthly cron task update. It's recommended, okay, the next section here, download failure threshold. It's recommended to use the download failure threshold setting. For example, if a list is defined to update once a day and fails to download, it wouldn't reattempt to download this list until the following day. Defining this option will force the failed list to update at the next available cron run. This will also limit the failed downloads for each list to the defined threshold in any given day. Failed lists will be reported to the error log and also into the widget. The failed download counter can be reset by clicking the trash can icon in the widget. The interface and rules configuration. So here you'd select the inbound interface and the rule action, typically defined as WAN and block. Then you select the outbound interface and the rule action, typically defined as LAN and reject. You typically want to reject on the LAN to avoid a timeout for a blocked IP request, while the LAN, you would want to drop those packets silently. The rule order. It's important to select the rule order option that best fits the needs of your network. Typically, you'd want to permit rules before block reject rules. However, everyone's needs are different. You can select one of the 4 predefined rule order options For more complex setups, you may opt to use alias type rules. Okay, so that's about it for the general tab settings. We're going to move to the update tab. So now that we've entered all the settings, we have the IP components all configured, the general settings tab has been configured, we need to apply these settings with the force update command. Otherwise, these settings will only apply at the next cron task. For the purpose of this hangout, the force update command has already been run. We can click on the view button to see the tail end of the log. Or you can go to the log browser tab and view the full log file. It's important to review the log as it will report all the package activity and will also provide details on issues that need to be addressed. Since all the settings are now applied, we can review the dashboard and also the firewall rules tab. The dashboard widget provides a quick summary of the package statistics. It will show the enabled state of the package and for DNSBL. It will report, I'll show you that here. It will also report the number of IP types, IPs by action type. Deny, permit, and match, and DNSBL. So this is the number of IPs in each category. It will also report statistics by alias, specifically alias, count, packets, updated, and number of firewall rules defined. You can also click on the wrench icon, and there's settings here on how to configure the dashboard widget. Make sure you save the settings after. You can also pivot on the packet column if you want to see the specific packets for those IPs. This will open up the alerts tab and show you all the IPs that were from that alias. If you go to the rules tab, you can see the web server alias showing the destination and the port aliases. And you can see all the aliases that were created by the package. Facebook is a match rule, so it's going to be in the floating tab. Everything looks to be good. So the second pfBlockerNG component is for domain names, otherwise known as DNSBL. So we'll navigate to the DNSBL tab. You can click on the blue exclamation, and it will show you some additional help text. So the first thing, you can follow most of the defaults that are here, is you enable DNSBL, you define the DNSBL VIP address, define the listening ports, select the DNSBL listening interface, and here is a DNSBL firewall rule. So for multi-segmented LANs, you need to ensure that all the LAN subnets can access the DNSBL VIP. You can use this option to auto-create a floating permit rule for all the selected interfaces here. DNSBL IP firewall rule settings. So Sometimes some DNSBL feeds contain IP addresses. So the DNSBL IP firewall rule settings can be defined if you wish to utilize these IPs and create the appropriate firewall rules. Typically define the action as deny outbound and enable logging. So I'm going to go to the Alexa whitelist feature. The Alexa whitelist is an optional whitelisting feature that can be used to mitigate issues with the top ranked websites. Alexa lists the top 1 million sites. You can read the help text for additional details by clicking the blue exclamation there. I'll show you some more details on how to set it up. So basically, I'm just using the default settings here. A key note is to not use this Alexa whitelist feature for advert-based feeds, as Alexa also lists the top advert domains. So we're going to open up the custom domain whitelist. The custom domain whitelist is where a user can manually define whitelisted domains. This whitelist is only applied on feed download. So after a custom list has been created, any changes to this custom list will only be updated at the next cron task or by running a force reload with either the DNSBL or the all option in the update tab. And again, always make sure you click save when you make changes. So we're going to navigate now to the DNSBL feeds tab. Groups can be defined to combine similar feeds or by a common update frequency, example once per hour or once per day. When creating a new DNSBL group, you need to configure the following fields. Enter the group name. Do not use international, special, or space characters. Enter the description. For each list, you need to define the format, the state, the source, and the header label name. You can click on the Add button to add additional feeds. You can also click on the blue exclamation mark to get additional details on how to configure each feed. The list action setting will determine what to do with this group. Select either disabled or unbound to enable this group. Define the update frequency and select when the alias should be updated. You can also enable the Alexa whitelist as an option. And don't forget to click save when you make any changes. So I've pre-configured 2 different DNSBL groups. The ads group is a collection of advertising domain feeds. They are all from reputable sources and is updated once per day. This group will not use the Alexa. All
Are you still there, Anthony? It sounds like your audio cut out. Looks like we might have lost him. Hold on just a moment. See if he rejoins.
The Alexa feature.
There you go. Your audio and movement cut out there for a minute.
You hear me now?
Yeah, you're back now.
Okay. Okay, so get back on track here. The second group is the malicious group. The malicious group is a collection of malicious domain feeds. They are from reputable sources and is updated once per day. This group will utilize the MaxMind filter. Okay, so now we're going to go to the DNSBL Easy List tab. Currently, there are only two EasyList feeds that are hard-coded into the package, EasyList and EasyPrivacy. Add the feeds as shown and select the categories that you wish to utilize. It's also not recommended to use the Alexa whitelist feature with EasyList. Save your settings. You go to the Update tab and you force Update to apply these settings. So DNSBL is now configured. Here is a checklist to ensure that DNSBL is fully functional. Ensure that the DNSBL service is running. Ensure that you're only using the DNS resolver for your LAN DNS requests. And you should be able to ping the DNSBL VIP from all LAN devices. And you should also be able to browse to the DNSBL VIP and get the 1x1 pixel. So we're going to go to the Alerts tab. Alerts will populate into the Deny DNSBL permit and match tables on page refresh. IP alerts are only reported if the alias is defined with logging enabled. Keep in mind that for IP alerts, the information is sourced from the pfSense firewall log. The alert settings can be configured here. You can define the number of entries to use for each action type. You can set the action type to 0 if you want the table to be hidden. There is also an auto refresh option to refresh the page every minute. And there's also an auto resolve option to perform DNS resolution for the alerted IP. The alert filter allows querying for alerts for specific details. It requires a regex syntax to perform the search. There are examples at the bottom by clicking here. On each alert line, you may see an exclamation and a plus icon. You can click on the exclamation icon to perform threat source lookup for a blocked IP. It is recommended to open these links in a different browser for security reasons. The use of these links can help determine the malicious nature of a particular IP. I'll click on one of them. And it opens up this page, and here's a series of threat sources you can look up. And it'll show you some additional details about that IP. You can see this is not really a good IP to hit. Then there's the plus icon. And this will add a suppress for the IP. Suppression will immediately remove the block IP from the alias and also prevents the IP from being re-added in the future. If you hover over the list column, you can get some extra details about how to use the suppress option. So basically, I hope this hangout was helpful. The topics covered only brush the surface of the pfBlockerNG capabilities. There are several other advanced features that I did not cover, but I believe that this should allow you to get started with the pfBlocker package and begin to unlock the potential of the package for your network. You can post the pfSense forum or in the pfSense Reddit if you have any questions or feedback. I'm open to any questions that you may have for whatever time we have remaining in this hangout, and I appreciate your time.
All right. Well, thank you, Anthony, for educating us all on how pfBlocker works. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and you can just type them in the chat. You might want to type something short just to let us know you have a question coming, because I know it can take a long time to type, and we wouldn't want to cut it off before you're finished typing. There was a bit of a lag there, especially toward the end, where the video seemed to be a little bit behind the audio, but the video quality went down a little bit too. So there might have been a throughput issue at some point. So, but unfortunately, there's not much we can do to help that. It's just all about internet connection speeds everywhere between us and Fuse.
Yeah. So basically, for Troy Borg, I didn't add all the lists that are available. I'm just showing just some of them. So it's just basically used as an option. This is not my router. This is just a test virtual machine.
343,000 malicious domains. Still seems low in the grand scheme of the internet.
Yeah, on my box, I'm like 1.2 million.
Wow.
I am working on an update to DNSBL to work with the subdomains, so that if a full domain is listed, it'll forget about any subdomains and only block the full domain.
Mm-hmm. Fun stuff.
Okay, so if you guys don't have any questions, I'm going to quiz you.
Hey, Anthony, it's Rick.
Hey, Rick.
Hey, I've noticed a couple of times there's websites you go to where they do have blatant ad blockers on them and whatnot like that, and oftentimes functionality on those websites is limited until you actually get a timeout, through the VIP. Is there anything that can be done to speed up that timeout, or is that a function of the website itself?
Well, the first thing is making sure you can ping. You have connectivity with DNSBL working, right?
Oh,
You
yeah,
can
yeah,
ping,
yeah.
You ping it,
There's some websites. I go to a couple of tool websites, and they're pulling in ads from somewhere, or I'm not sure. I haven't bothered to look at them because I don't really care about them. But you lose some of the functionality of the site until you actually get the white timeout box.
Yeah. So usually that means that your browser is waiting for the timeout.
Right, and that's what I'm getting at is there anything that can be done within DNSBL or pfBlocker to shorten that timeout time, or is that a function of the website not liking the fact that we're blocking ads?
No, like typically what you do is you look at the page. You can are you seeing an ad or you're not seeing an ad?
Not seeing an ad. You just get a blank box, and then probably within about 18 to 20 seconds,
so right click on that box.
It'll go white and say blocked.
Right click on that box and do inspect.
Uh-huh.
And you'll see the HTML details of that.
Yeah.
And you might have to whitelist that domain.
Okay. Like I say, it's easier, because it's not crap that I want to see anyway, so I just wait on it, and then suddenly the functionality of the website takes off.
Some of these sites they screw around to.
Yeah. Yeah, they're starting to screw around with people who are ad blocking.
I think everybody just needs to boycott that screw around and show these ad blocker pages.
Yeah, try visiting wired.com with an ad blocker active. The article shows up and like 2 seconds later flips up. So we see you're running an ad blocker, and they try and block you out.
Yeah.
Start a petition, man. If there's something specific, just shoot me a message and I'll help you out, and we'll try to figure out what it is. Right?
Sure.
We got somebody asking there if there are any official numbers for the total number of package downloads. No, I don't think we've collated any of that data. I'm pretty sure we have the logs, but I don't think we've run any reports yet. So, but that might be something that will show up in a future blog post or product news or something. Might show how many package installs have been done that we're aware of. But that's not any data we have, right at the tip of our fingers. But I know we can get it. I just don't think we've actually taken the trouble to run through all that. We've all been extremely busy since 2.3 release dropped with support and helping people get upgraded and tracking down things that people have hit. So we haven't had time to think about any stats. I think we have had some bandwidth or throughput pictures that we've posted to Twitter showing people were downloading it from us at incredibly high rates, but I think that may be the extent of the stats we've run so far. All right. Do we have any more questions? You can type them out, or I guess.
All the topics you guys are looking for. If there's something more specific, we've got a few minutes. If there's something you want to see.
There's Troy Borg too. He's asking, where was the database you got those Tor lists from? Was it built in, or was it?
Okay, if you look on the screen right there, I show you there's 3 links.
Now, do you have those actually in text form, like on one of your forum threads somewhere?
Yeah, in the forum thread, there is a script that I wrote that Dr. Nader posted,
Mhm.
and it's in there. I can
Yeah, just so if somebody were wanting to load them up, it'd be a lot easier for them to copy and paste if they had it in text somewhere, just to be a nicety if they want it.
I'll send it to you. I think you're on Reddit, Troy. So I'll shoot you a PM there. So the other things I didn't really talk about was the log browser tab. You have all the logs, the main logs. These are the original files that are downloaded from the site. The original DNS files. And then the actual converted file. DNSBL permit. Match. This shows all the country files that are available. There's also the sync tab where you can sync to different machines and it'll sync your settings. I didn't talk about reputation. Reputation is a little bit more involved. If anybody has any specific questions, you can shoot me a message or I'll explain that to you. Update tab also has like a reload option. So if you decide that you do not want to use aggregation and duplication, save your settings, back to the update tab, reload. You want to reload just the IP portion. So now it's going to skip the deduplication and the aggregation. It's not going to download the files because they are already downloaded. Flip back to the general tab, re-enable them. And now you're going to be performing deduplication and aggregation again. This feature useful in the update tab.
Okay. So one last call for questions.
A lot of
Make sure
people
they get
like
them typed out now.
a lot of people like clicking on every single setting. Like they'll do force update, then they'll do force cron and force reload, trying to get things to work. Really, force update is typically what you need to do to get settings to take effect. Force reload is, like I said, when you have a change, you made a change in your system. Say you took out a country list, and when you take out a country list, deduplication has to be rerun. So you would always want to run reload and reload all your settings because deduplication works as a whole. So every single list is together in a database. Force cron, basically all force cron is doing is saying, when I hit run, it's going to look at the hour that we're at now, look at your lists, and then say, okay, what lists are in this cron hour, and then only run those lists. So you would only want to run this is if cron task didn't run. You did something to stop pfBlocker, and then you say, okay, well, I missed this cron run, I want to run it. That's about it. The update tab, the pfBlockerNG log file is what I'm showing you here. Is very important. Any errors that you have, any issues, it's always going to be reported here. You guys just need to review it and it'll show you how to fix it. It won't show you how to fix it, but it'll show you details of what the problem was and then you can address it from there. So basically, if you'd only do it in one place, Troy, You don't want to select something in top 20 and then go select it in the other tab, because what it's going to do is it won't work, but it's only going to put in a dummy address of 1111 when you run it.
All right. Well, it looks like we may not have any more questions. So that's going to be about it for today. So thank you again, Anthony, for showing us pfBlocker. And if we might have you back if we have any more detail people want to go into for pfBlocker or related things. So we will just have to take that as we see it. If there's anything else you need to ask about, whatever, you can follow up on the forum for pfBlocker, and we can see everybody next month. We don't have a topic yet for next month, but if you have any suggestions, you can shoot them off to us either on Twitter or Reddit, the forum, wherever. But thank you all. We'll see you next month.